One of the other heartwarming decisions and activities and events is that today you have heard me on this radio station, you have heard me on my program on numerous occasions speaking to the matter of the voters list. And you have heard on the news many times about efforts being made by the supervisor of elections to clean up the voters list. Both political parties in Parliament have expressed the desire to have this matter settled before an election is called. The latest figures reflect that registered voters now total 106,686. So we're getting close. I believe that we have gone over the population of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I believe the last census told us we were about 105,000 thereabout. So we're now close to 107,000 names on the voters list. Well, surely no political party would, or let me put it this way, no political party would allow its integrity to be questioned and go into an election where you have more persons on the voters list than the population of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So the supervisor of elections and her staff have been working real hard at this. She has called meetings on numerous occasions with the Unity Labour Party, and she has met with the New Democratic Party, which are the two political parties that are represented in the House of Parliament, and she is guided by that. I want to establish that. There are other political parties that do not carry a seat in Parliament, and the discussions were limited to those who are represented in the House of Parliament. A breakdown of this 106,686 is as follows. In 1982, there was a new ID card system, and continuous registration started. And over the years, this has built up. She has given us details as to how the numbers ran from 1951 down to 2010 elections. But you can see a significant escalation in the figures immediately following the new ID card system that was put in place, registration system that was put in place in the early 80s. In 1984, the total number of registered voters was 47,863. And the next election in 1989, it jumped to 61,000. The next one, 71,000, then 76,000 in 98, 84,000 in 2001, 91,000 in 2005, and 101,000 in 2010. And now, in 2015, it's 106,686. So after having all these meetings and in discussions with the Ministry of Legal Affairs as to how best, both political parties agreed in principle that we should amend the Representation of the People's Act to try and have this matter addressed. And it's been addressed from this viewpoint. Of the 106,686 persons registered, as of yesterday, 72,910 persons have the new ID card. And there are still 33,776. So 73,000 persons with ID card and 34,000 persons without ID cards. That's basically what it is. So she had suggested some time ago, in agreement, and both parties agreed, that we should call the names. We should do separate lists and have a list of all those persons who have not yet renewed their ID card. The current ID card that we're using now was issued on the 15th of July 2009. That's where the issuance started of the new one. In other words, an ID card system was put in place in the early 80s, and a new ID card was put in place in 2009. That's the latest ID card that we have. I have one, and mine expires in 2019 because it's for 10 years. There's an expiry date to each ID card. So, as of yesterday, 73,000 persons had that ID card and 34,000 persons. So we agree that we'll separate the list and print the names of the persons, and suggested further that those names be taken off of the voters list and held in a separate list, and that we amend the Representation of the People's Act to give the supervisor of elections to qualify her action and to print those names and circulate those names. It was the idea of this amendment to the Representation of the People Act is to give the persons, those 34,000 persons who have not yet had their new ID cards, give them an opportunity to state why their names should not be taken off of the voters list. Under the present law, your names can come off either you have died or you cease to be qualified for certain reasons. And one of those reasons, basically, which we feel, and I think generally most Vincentians would accept, that the majority of these persons are persons who have lived overseas for a long time and have been overseas since this new ID card has come in place. Because if you're out of the country for more than 5 years, you no longer qualify to be a voter, and your name could be taken off the list. So she's been proactive on this. She's extracting the names of those persons who don't have their new ID cards, make a list, and once we debate this in Parliament, she would publish all those names in the Government Gazette and in all 3 newspapers in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, so that every single person would get an opportunity to go through that voters list. And then those persons, the 34,000 persons, will be given 30 days in which to prove to the supervisor of elections that their names should not be taken off the list. There are a lot of persons who live in St. Vincent who have not yet renewed their ID cards either. And I think that this is going to be a motivation for them to get their ID cards renewed. Because if you know you live in St. Vincent and you have renewed your ID card, or if you have gone away for less than 5 years, but you haven't renewed your ID card, or you have come back home once or more during the 5 years that you have been overseas, and you qualify for your name to be on there, but you didn't go through the process of renewing your ID card, you are given 30 days in which to indicate and show proof to the supervisor of elections. I will take your call when I'm finished with this process. So just give me 2 minutes. I'm almost finished, and then I'll open the lines for some discussion, because this is a very important exercise. Today, the supervisor of elections met with both the Unity Labour Party and the New Democratic Party in one meeting. NDP was represented, ULP was represented. The president of the New Democratic Party was there, the political leader of the Unity Labour Party was there. He was there in the early part of the meeting, but he had to go to Venezuela, so he left after about half an hour, 3/4 of an hour. But we had, by that time, had already established an agreement. Both parties have agreed to support this amendment to the Representation of the People's Act. We will try to get this, the political leader, Prime Minister will try to get this into Parliament, I believe, at our next meeting, and that this can be put in place as soon as possible. Goes to the Governor General, Governor General consents to it. As soon as the Governor General consents, she gives the notice, she circulates all the names that would be taken off. So basically, if we do that and nobody comes to renew their name, the voters list will be reduced down to 72,000. But we expect that quite a few persons will come and get this. So, as basically, I'm prepared for discussion, and